Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we are two dudes talking 80s. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis.
Hello.
And you're kind of running out of ideas with that whole thing, aren't you?
There's only so
Hey,
much that you can do, you know?
you painted yourself into a corner. That was you doing that, It became your signature move, and now you're paying the price for it. What are you gonna do? Hey, we're back. We're gonna talk about one of my favorite movies. I feel like I say that every time, but it's really true. I love a lot of these movies that we talk about, and we're talking about today 1987's "Can't Buy Me Love." Now, I, excuse me, I actually discovered this movie in the theaters when it came out. At the time, the girl I was dating really wanted to see this. I don't know why. I think I kind of went begrudgingly, and I fell in love with this movie. I still, to this day, I love rewatching it. So I have a long history with this movie. Lewis, do you want to tell me about your extensive history with the movie Can't Buy Me Love?
Sure, I'll tell you my extensive history. I probably watched it for the first time in the 2000s. And yeah, there's really no extensive history there. Rewatched it yesterday to sort of reacquaint myself. So um, yeah,
I actually thought it was the first time you ever watched it was yesterday.
no, it wasn't the first time. I'd seen it before. You
Oh,
turned me
really?
onto it a while back.
Okay. I don't know why. I thought it was one of those movies you had never seen it, but you saw it. All right. Well, cool. What I know you probably don't remember much of it when you saw it in the 2000s. What did you think rewatching it yesterday?
The first thing that struck me was how absolutely 80s it was. Especially in the beginning, I'm noticing the girls with, the crimped up hair and I'm sorry, the not the crimped up hair, but the crimped up hair.
Not
Not
the
the
crimped up
puffy hair,
hair, but the
but
crimped up
the
hair.
crimped up hair.
Okay.
That makes sense to my mind. It doesn't make sense to anybody else, but
It
that's
really
okay.
does not, but okay, go
Anyway,
with that.
so the crimped hair where they had the little
Yeah.
squiggly things, all right? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That and it's just super 80s. I didn't realize how much of a time capsule that it was. And yeah, it was a cute movie, man. I without going into too much detail yet, I dug it.
Yeah, I'm sure hair crimping, ladies, you can talk about this if you were a gal in the 80s. I'm sure hair crimping was just a wonderful thing to do to your hair. Because my wife even talked about you would actually smell the hair burning while you're crimping it. And it's like, oh, that's got to be good. Um, so it came out in 1987, of course, introduced us. At least it's for me the first time you kind of met Patrick Dempsey, as Ronald Miller. Cindy Mancini was played by Amanda Peterson. One of the things that first struck me about this movie, or what was real interesting, researching this movie, she was 15 when she filmed this movie.
Wow.
Amanda Peterson was 15 years old. It's just hard to believe. I mean, everyone kind of fit the mold, and I thought she did too. And yeah, but 15 years old. Patrick Dempsey, I guess, was 20. But a lot of great movies for those that have never seen this movie. And again, it's tragic if you haven't. Can't Buy Me Love tells the story of a young man named Ronald Miller, played by Patrick Dempsey, who is kind of a geek, and he gets this idea that Cindy Mancini is the head cheerleader, and Ronald kind of has this thing for Cindy. And she's at a party wearing a dress of her mother's that she wasn't supposed to, a suede dress or outfit. Somebody drops wine on it, destroys the outfit, so she has to go and try and purchase another one. She doesn't have the money, and Ronald is there to actually buy a telescope. And instead, he says, "Tell you what, I'll give you the money. You can buy that outfit, but you pretend to like me and go out with me for 2 months. And by doing so, you'll make me popular." And she's like, "That's not going to make you popular." He goes, "Well, I have the money that says it is." And so that's how they forge this relationship, to try and this transaction, so to speak. He gets the money to her. She's able to buy a new outfit, presumably. You never do see the outfit come back. And now he's off to the races trying to become popular because he's assumed to be going out with the head cheerleader. So that's kind of the gist of it. A lot of great scenes, a lot of great moments in this movie. You talk about how 80s it is. It cracks me up every time I watch when they get to school the first time they're going to portray the fact that they're together, or and she's like, I can't go with you looking like this. And so what does she do to make him look handsome? Like a 20-pound thing of mousse in his hair. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's the 80s. Mousse made everything better. Did you ever use mousse in your hair?
I think I tried once or twice, and it didn't work for me.
It,
So
it
it was
didn't help
bad.
the mullet.
It was bad.
I think I might have used it. I might have used it once, but I think I did it for like a Halloween thing or whatever, thinking trying to use something for a hold or a look for Halloween. It wasn't part of my typical fashion, but anyway, it actually worked. It did work, and again, in researching this movie, I guess the writer talked about his experience and what the inspiration behind it was that he took a very attractive woman with him to some party. And even though he wasn't really, a popular person or whatever, he noticed that after bringing that girl to the party, who was just a friend of his, all these people wanted to befriend him. Like suddenly it gave him, a credibility that he hadn't had before. And he's like, huh. And he incorporated that into the script, which ultimately became Can't Buy Me Love. Original title was, I think it was going to be Boy Rents Girl.
Lame.
Yeah. So to use the title and the song of Can't Buy Me Love, they had to get permission from none other than Michael Jackson, because I don't know if you're aware, he owned the catalog to the Beatles music. And so they actually screened the movie for Michael Jackson. Turned out that he loved the movie and gave them permission to use the title and the song.
That just sounds so weird. They called Michael Jackson to get permission. That just sounds so wrong.
I know. I heard that's the big reason that Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson had a falling out. So,
Yeah, it was.
um, you know, let me ask you about getting back to the movie itself. Did you have a favorite scene in the movie or something that really stood out for you?
Can't remember a favorite scene, John. One of the things that really struck me was how good of the acting that Amanda Peterson and Patrick Dempsey did. I mean, they were definitely leagues apart from everybody else, in my opinion. I remember watching Amanda's character when she was trying to scrub to get the wine stain out of the dress that was her mom's, the one that you mentioned earlier that was suede, and just the expressions on her face is like, man, she's really good. She's like she really looks desperate. Um, I thought they were both exceptional actors.
Yeah, I agree. And again, knowing now that she was 15 when she made this, um, I thought she did a great job. One of the things that I don't know if I would say it was my favorite scene in the movie, but one of the things that really hit me, and correct me, but I'm looking back on it, I felt it was like the first time it was really thrown in your face, um, where it was the popular girl lamenting the fact, that popularity wasn't everything you thought it would be, right? She has that famous scene, it's like me wearing that dress, that was me trying to be popular. It sometimes feels like a job. Yeah, and I thought that was a really interesting take on it. And I don't feel like you usually have that depth of character in these type of movies. So I thought that was something that really stood out to me. And I gotta tell you, every time um, when Ronald finally gets caught up, where Cindy at the New Year's Eve party kind of outs him like, "Oh, you guys, he paid me to do this, and you guys all fell for it. What a bunch of sheep you are." And they tell him to leave the party, and his old friends, the geeky guys, drive by and they're like, "Oh, at least we're not alone like that guy." And he's kind of like huddled, and walking home, and he sees that they're having a party at his house, and he goes and sleeps in the shed. That was heartbreaking. Like that really affected me, and it kind of continued in, there's a little bit of a montage about how he's um people are ignoring him, and then the one girl that comes up, this heavyset girl comes up and says, "Oh, didn't you take economics? You could have had me for what, 49.95 or
49.95.
something." Yeah. And you just tell how embarrassed he is by the whole thing and being found out. And just like I said, I know it's a teen comedy, and they really, unlike a lot of the movies back then, I felt like it was a lot less raunchy. How the nudity and all that. So it was a lot less raunchy, the jokes. It was a PG movie, or PG-13, I don't recall. But that heartbreak was real. I kind of feel like that heartbreak wasn't quite on the level of The Last American Virgin, but it's not far off either.
It was sad, man. I specifically remember the scene where you mentioned that he went into the shed to sleep, and he pulls out a burlap sack and he lays it on the floor, and then he sits there and he lays there and starts to cry. That did tug at my heartstrings.
Well, good. You're not completely dead. Um, and one of the things you forget about the movie is it introduced us to two music stars of the '90s. Paula Abdul was the choreographer.
Okay.
And then Gerardo Mejia, who played Ricky, was later famous for Gerardo, Rico, Suave. Remember the
That's
guy
what
didn't own a shirt?
that's when we could have done with that. Yes. Oh my God. And I remember in the home economics scene, which tripped me out. It's like, wow, that's right. They had home economics as a class in high school. I don't know if it was that he was wearing a sleeveless shirt or what, but he looks like he's wearing an apron with no shirt.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my God.
it was a precursor to Rico Suave.
Oh man. I didn't realize that was him.
That's Gerardo. And what's crazy about it is, Ronald's best friend in the movie, Kenneth, who was portrayed by Courtney Gaines. Courtney Gaines and Gerardo Mejia, a year later, starred in the another '80s classic, Colors, and they're both
Wow.
gang members.
Oh my gosh, man.
Now, I could get Gerardo, and God, I hope this doesn't come across as racist. I could get Gerardo portraying a gang member because he had that little street, but Kenneth as a gang member, and he pulls it off. I don't know if you've ever seen Colors with Sean Penn and Robert Duvall. It's about a couple of LAPD cops, but yeah, Kenneth pulled off being a gangster.
Man, that would be a good one for us to do, man. 'Cause I did see it a in the 80s, and I'd love to go back. That's actually one of my two watch lists. But yeah, every time I saw him, because I was like looking at him going, that dude looks familiar. And
So
I'm like,
Courtney
oh
Gaines or Gerardo?
no, Courtney Gaines. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Malachi from Children of the Corn.
Oh
And then
yeah,
and then
that's another one.
after that, it was just every time I saw him, it's like I kept thinking, he wants you, Malachi.
I haven't seen Children of the Corn in ages, and I remember that movie freaked me out.
That's another good one. But yeah, yeah, I couldn't
What
get
a
that out
yeah,
of my
what a
head.
range in just a short period, like from going from Kenneth to to be a gangster in Colors to being the Children of the Corn, and he was convincing in all of them, and they're all such different roles. I think he still acts today, to be honest, but I don't know what he's done lately. I guess I could have looked that up, but I didn't. So anyway.
It's
Oh,
all right.
and did you recognize who? Do you recognize who his little brother is Chucky, the one for Ronald Miller's brother.
He looked familiar, and I know the actor, but I couldn't tell you what he was in,
Yeah,
what else
Seth
he was in.
Green,
Right?
famous for Buffy the Vampire Slayer in my world. I'm sure somebody else would say something else, but anyway, um, I gotta bring this up because it's important. Oh, by the way, talking about '80s stuff, how '80s is that cabriolet?
Very, very, very 80s.
Every hot girl I knew seemed to have a white Volkswagen Cabriolet. I get, were they only convertibles? I don't know much about cabriolets.
I think the cabriolet may have been just convertible. I
Yeah.
even want to say that cabriolet sort of means convertible, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. I feel real stupid if that's the case. It's like cabriolet. Yeah, dumbass. It literally means convertible. Oh, thanks, Lou. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Um,
a car with the roof that folds down.
yeah. Wait, I don't want to hear a hair crimp. No, wait, crimp. No, crimp. Nice, real nice. So we got to talk about some of the ladies in there, and I'm not going to bring up Amanda Peterson because now that I know she was 15, um, but she had some friends. She had Barbara, Patty. Kind of the outlier was Iris, and oh gosh, um, Fern was the other girl, the one that she was befriending at the party. Was
Oh,
it
okay.
Fern? Do you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
who
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
is?
No.
Amy Dolenz, which probably means nothing to you. She was in a movie with Tony Danza in the 80s called She's Out of Control,
Mm.
but her father famously is Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees.
Oh, wow.
A little
That's neat.
trivia. So, which, if you were Ronald, which of the hot friends would you have gone after?
I love Tina's hair. She
Or were
had
they crimped
big,
or crimped?
it was no crimped, crimped. You
Okay.
got to do the flowing fingers. It's
Yeah,
crimped, right?
I don't, yeah, my
Not big
fingers don't
hair,
flow.
but crimped.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Her big hair really struck me. She had really, really big hair.
All right. Well, I will go with Iris. And what was the line? She's given more free rides than oh God, or given more rides than I don't remember exactly the line, and it bugs me now because I've heard that line a million times. But the one that
Oh, then a Greyhound bus.
thank you, she's given more rides than Greyhound. But yeah, Iris did it for me. She looked um like a very, not that she's not sexy, but almost like a more vamped version of Nia Peoples, who I love me some Nia Peoples. But I thought she was gorgeous, and she also was a former Playboy playmate.
Huh.
Not that I investigated that at all. I will neither confirm nor deny that I investigated her Playboy playmate pictorials, either now or back in the day. But
And
anyway,
do you know if she did the Playboy spread before or after the movie?
that's a good question, one that I cannot answer.
Fair enough.
I know she liked long walks on the beach, sunsets, and Thai food. I really don't. But tell me that doesn't sound like something that would have been on the Playboy centerfold. Turn-ons, turn-offs. Wasn't that it?
I think you're right.
I. So, oh, by the way, Amy Dolenz did turn 18 during the making of this movie, so just had to point that out. What character did you like, or what character did you relate to most in this movie? Was there anyone in particular?
Relate to the most.
Or like,
I liked Ronald's character, right? Or Ronald Miller. I thought his character was awesome. I thought the acting was superb. That he played the geek really well. He played the super cool guy really well, especially when he's like full blown like popularity guy, and he's really hung up on himself. I thought he did an amazing job. So I probably that character.
I mean, it's hard not to be hung up on yourself when you're driving your dad's station wagon with the wood paneling. I know for me personally, when I took out my dad's station wagon with the wood paneling, I couldn't, get women away with the stick. It was just such a chick magnet car.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so maybe I didn't use enough moose. I don't know. That was probably the case. I really felt an affection for, even though I didn't relate to her, but Cindy Mancini is my far and away my favorite character. Um, I thought Amanda Peterson did such a great job with her. And like I said, I brought it up several times, but just to think she was 15 and the emotions that she conveyed, the heartbreak, um, all that stuff that she, had to do and did everything really well. She was one of those people, like, I was shocked that I didn't see her in any, I don't remember her in any major roles after this one. Because I thought, you looked at her and you saw a star. Um, I do remember she was in a movie a couple years later. She had a minor part. It was called, I think it was called Talk to Me. And it starred Kirk Cameron, Jamie Gertz, and um, oh God, Roy Scheider,
Oh,
in Jaws,
hmm.
and it takes place in a college, and it's the college debate team, and they were supposed to go ahead, and the debate team was debating the topic of abortion. That's a very interesting topic. And she had a part in that, and in that movie, she walked with a cane, so she had some leg issue. That was her character,
Okay.
Amanda Peterson, and I thought she was. I mean, she's in it for a very short period of time, and I actually saw that movie because I wanted to see her. And I thought she was great in that too. It's a very small part, but there was a scene where the professor really, attacks her character, and accuses her of using her ailment to her advantage, or as a crutch. Sorry, not pun not intended. To not fulfill her potential, and the way she handled it and responded to him, it was a really good scene, really incredible scene. And after that, I don't remember seeing her again. And then, unfortunately, for those that aren't aware, she, had quite a downward spiral later on. She ended up becoming a, drug user and died in what she OD'd in 2015. She was 43 years old.
Man.
She overdosed. And the real tragedy is her parents, while they didn't come out and say exactly what the issue was, they said that there was something that happened to her on the set of Can't Buy Me Love that permanently affected her and
Oh,
changed
wow.
her. And because of that, that is why she got into drug use and everything else. And now, when you're watching some of these documentaries, like there's one that came out recently about the child stars of Nickelodeon and how, some of them were abused and things like that. You see this awful thing that was happening in Hollywood, and I'm sure it was even worse probably in the 80s, right? um, you have to wonder what exactly happened to her, and to cause her to go that route and self-medicate likely, and ultimately lead to her downfall. Because, like I said, her career, man, maybe that's why she never reached heights
Yeah.
like she would have, you would have expected from her. At least through 80s, early 90s, you would have thought she would have been a pretty big star.
Yeah, that's super sad, man. Yeah, I didn't realize. I knew that she had died, and I knew that it was from an overdose. I didn't know anything about, what you just mentioned was something happening on the set of Can't Buy Me Love, and that changed her. That's really sad.
It is, and we can only speculate exactly what happened unless they come out with it.
Right.
A couple other things I gotta mention. Bobby, the football player boyfriend. portrayed by George Gray,
Uh-huh.
apparently has been the announcer on Price is Right since 2010.
That's awesome.
So I don't know if he still was it the hot tub or the sauna that he missed or the whirlpool. Remember when they asked him on camera what he misses about the hometown?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of those 2.
Yeah.
I do remember.
So, for their last official date as a couple, Ronald took Cindy to the airplane graveyard, which was really cool. And they had the makeshift telescope looking at the moon and things. It's a really beautiful, beautiful scene. In the '80s, what was your go-to date night?
I don't think I had a go-to date night for anything, although I would have loved to have access to a graveyard for, old planes. God, man, when they were going through there, and I was just thinking, how awesome would that be, man, to, be able to see some of these really old planes or, be able to even walk through some of the old jetliners and stuff. Don't ask me why it really, really appealed to me.
Hmm. Yeah, I might go to is going to see movies like Can't Buy Me Love. There you go. No, the gal that I dated in this time period when I really was dating, my girlfriend at the time, she loved going to the movies, probably even more than me. And oh my God, we'd go to the drive-ins, we go, she was kind of an introvert, so to put her in social situations weren't her comfort zone. So a lot of times to go out, we would just do things like the movies. Um, and so we saw a ton of stuff. We saw Can't Buy Me Love because of it. So, um, can you or can you not do the African anteater ritual?
With some practice, but I think I'd throw my back out at this age if I tried to do that. God, that was funny, man.
Okay, for those that haven't seen the movie, there is a scene where Ronald was it Crimp's girl or no, it was I think it was Patty.
Yeah, I think it might have been. I don't
I
think it
think it
was
was
the crimp.
Pat. He was supposed to go out with her, and she goes, "I bet you're a real sexy dancer." And in a panic, he realizes he doesn't really know how to dance. So, it's the '80s. It's not like, we could record something or watch back. Maybe he could have rented it. I don't know. And by the way, how weird is it? The only TV in the house was in the kitchen. Anyway, so he goes in the kitchen where his brother's watching something, gets the TV from him, turns on what he believes is American Bandstand and kind of, see some dance moves. And he watches it and he does the dance moves, leaves the room. His brother comes in and they say, "Oh, thank you. That was the African anteater ritual." So, of course, Ronald breaks that out at the dance. And because he's a popular guy now, everyone starts doing it. Well, his nerd friends who happen to be at the dance are like, "That's the African anteater ritual." So, choreographed again by Paul Abdul. Um, Oh, one other last little tidbit that I found that I thought was interesting. The gal that played Barbara, the crimp girl that you like so much,
Yes.
Sherry Kaspari.
Yes.
I know an interesting tidbit on her.
Sure.
She was the original Kelly Bundy in the pilot for Married with Children.
I can actually see her pulling that off.
Really? I don't
I
know.
could actually
Christina Applegate just so perfectly nailed that part. I can't imagine anyone else. It'd be like replacing, Al Bundy. Like, Ed O'Neill was so perfect in that role.
Yeah, it's
But
hard to go back now, absolutely. But sort of putting myself, trying to take myself out of what I already know about Married with Children, I could see her pulling that off.
all right, well, that's good to hear. Final grade out of 10. What would you give Can't Buy Me Love?
Probably an 8.5.
I'd go just a skosh higher, a tad. I'd go
Smidge,
nine.
9.
Smidge. I can't think of anything else.
A dash.
A dash, a pinch. I don't know, pinch, whatever. Now I'm cooking. All right, so I'll give it a nine. You give it an 8.5. Are you glad I made you revisit Can't Buy Me Love?
Absolutely, man.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Highly recommended, especially if you're a big fan of the 80s. Again, one of the things that just surprised me how much it's the 80s, how much it reeks of that. It's beautiful.
And I've always wanted to recreate the scene on the lawnmower with the sunset.
That was awesome.
You know, did you ever see the movie Easy A
No, I don't think I did.
with Emma Stone? Um, the ending of that movie, they recreated that scene, which I thought was a very cool homage with that to Can't Buy Me Love. So they
Nice.
kind of recreated at the end of Easy A. So good on them. You gotta show love for the 80s. Always,
Awesome, man.
always.
Beautiful.
All right, before we finish this bad boy, anything you want to add? Anything I missed or anything you missed? Or
No, I'm sure there's
just
tons of
something?
I'm sure there's tons of stuff 'cause I remember going through the movie going, "Oh man, I need to remember this part to talk about this," and now I can't remember any of it. I should write this stuff down. But yeah, and no, I don't have anything else. Again, if please watch the movie if you haven't seen it. It's
Absolutely.
very endearing.
Rest in peace, Amanda Peterson. You deserve so much more in this world, and whatever happened, it's just tragic. And I hope whoever was responsible for whatever tragedy befell her, it lives with that guilt and that shame every single day of their life. So, anyway, wow, took it out, made it real somber at the end. I'm sorry. But
Ew.
yeah, I know. Wow, wow. Sometimes you can't always, can't buy me love. What are you gonna do? I want to hear the song now. I know it's not an '80s song, but it's so ingrained into that movie that it was what a great ending. What a great ending. And like I said, if it wasn't for that, we would have had Boy Rents Girl, and I don't think we would have been talking about Boy Rents Girl. Wouldn't have happened.
No,
So,
no. And yes, the riding off into the sunset on a Toro lawnmower motor was awesome.
all right. So the next time you come to visit me, I'm gonna rent a lawnmower, and you and I are gonna ride off in the sunset, and that'll be the new ending for the show. Okay.
Beautiful.
All right. You'll have to bring your own cowboy hat. I don't have one.
We'll expense it.
All right. Good. Yeah. It'll go on the budget. Anyway, guys, thank you as always for watching. We appreciate it. If you haven't seen it, like Lewis said, please watch Can't Buy Me Love. I think you'll find something to enjoy about it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate you guys as always. And Lou, take us out, brother.
Peace out.
Thank you, guys.